This morning, we're going to be talking a part of our 5-week series on a subject that we all do a lot of, and that is worry, right? That's something we can all kind of relate to, the whole thing of worrying. And I'm probably a master of it. And the later the day goes, the later the night goes, the better I get at worrying. And so this whole series came out of the night before I went back to work after my vacation a couple of weeks ago. Now, I didn't write all the sermons that night, but the concept of worrying came to it. So what you're going to want to look at today is you're going to want to take a Bible nearby and pick up First Kings. And I want you to be able to look at 1 Kings chapter 3, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But that gives you something for right now. 1 Kings chapter 3, it's kind of a long passage. We'll leave it on the screen as we go along. But I want to start with a definition today of worry, because there's all kinds of concepts going around as to what is worry. What's the definition of worry? Looking it up, Merriam-Webster defines worry as to think about problems or fears, to feel or show fear and concern because you think that something bad has happened or could happen. I looked up I just did a word search on worry, and this Wikipedia article came up, and it said this: worry refers to the thoughts, images, and emotions of a negative nature in which mental attempts are made to avoid anticipated potential threats. As an emotion, it is experienced as anxiety or concern about a real or imagined issue. Often personal issues such as health or finances, or broader issues such as environmental pollution and social or technological change. Most people experience short-lived periods of worry in their lives without incident. Indeed, a moderate amount of worrying may even have positive effects if it prompts people to take precautions. Now, Wikipedia is not what I call an academic source, but it's a nice gathering of some ideas and a lot of facts. But it makes sense that worrying isn't always bad, especially if it prompts us to take some precautions. You know, for example, a carefree guy says, I don't have any problem drinking at all and driving. I have no problem. I know what my limits are. And so I drive and drink all the time, this person says. Now, we would want that person to worry a little bit more about drinking and driving if it caused him to be more cautious. Now, so if you think about it, if worrying is thinking about a problem to find a solution, there really isn't anything necessarily wrong with worrying. That's how we find solutions. When someone says, I'm worrying about a problem, I'm worrying about it, it sounds terrible, right? First thing we want to say is what? Go ahead and say it. Don't worry, be happy, as the song goes. But that's a total misunderstanding of the word worry. It's when worrying becomes an obsession and we can't stop thinking about our problem that worrying becomes counterproductive, right? So, how do we stop worrying? And I suspect that if I was to invite any one of you to come up here, terrify the daylights out of you, and ask you to take a microphone and stand up here and tell us how you stop worrying, I would imagine that there are this many differences in how you choose to stop worrying. Simply telling oneself, stop worrying, it doesn't work. And you've probably proven that, right? So when you say to someone, stop worrying, what are you saying to them? The impossible. You're saying to them, why don't you take the next flight to the moon? Because they can't. Now, we can distract ourselves for a moment, but we can't banish anxious thoughts for good. In fact, trying to do so often makes them stronger and more persistent. So try this test sometime. Okay? Close your eyes and picture a pink elephant. Can you see it? You sure? Okay. Now stop thinking about that pink elephant. Go ahead, try it. How do you think you're going to do? Because those thoughts of pink elephants are going to keep popping into your... Why did he say pink elephants? What's the deal about pink elephants? Now, the rest of the sermon, that's all you're going to remember are the pink elephants. That's called thought stopping. And it backfires because it forces us to pay extra attention to the very thought we want to avoid. And we always have to be watching for it. And this very emphasis makes it seem even more important in our brain. Now, one approach that's popular, and some of you may apply this, is the practice of postponing worrying. So rather than trying to stop or to get rid of an anxious thought, give yourself permission to have them, but put off dwelling on them until a designated time, okay? Create what I'm going to call a worry period. Now, do you think that's crazy? It sounds crazy, right? I'm going to tell you that I have practiced this for now 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And it has been the most effective thing in my life for dealing with worrying. You set a set time and you set a set place for worrying. A set time and a set place. Same time and same place. And it should be the same every day. So for example, if it's the living room from 5 to 5:20, it's that space, okay? That's where your worries are. And early enough that it won't make you anxious right before bedtime. Because if you're just about going to sleep, or you're going to go to bed in the next hour, and you start thinking about those worries, what's going to happen? The pink elephant's going to start running fast through your head over and over. And then the rest of the day is a worry-free zone. So what happens to me is, especially in the warm nights, try not to run the air conditioning at night, and the warm nights is I can't sleep. And so what do? I wake up, and I'm happy when I wake up, but pretty soon, what starts creeping into the head? The worries. And then comes the solutions, right? Oh, but then what comes back? The worries. Then we start working on the solutions. And then what happens? Then the worries. And it spins, and it spins, and it spins. And for me, it will spin for 2 hours. I call it a donut hole in the middle of my night of sleep. And this way, what happens is, if you get an anxious thought in your head, like right now, if you have an anxious thought in your head, you write it down, and you continue about your day, because you know that later on that day, you can deal with it. Remind yourself when that worry thought comes in your head, I will take care of it at 5 o'clock. Not now, but at 5 o'clock. And don't have to worry about it. Then you go over your worry list during the worry period. And if the thoughts you wrote down are still bothering you, allow yourself to worry about them, but only for the time you've specified for that worry period. Because you see, if you start at 5 o'clock and you say, well, I'm going to worry. Now this is my worry period. But you didn't set a limit on it. It could be 9 o'clock, and you're getting really tired by this point, and you're still worrying about it. You're still going over and over and over it. Only for the time you specified for your worry period. And if you don't seem, if those worries don't seem important anymore, cut your worry period short and go on, enjoy the rest of your day. Now, postponing worrying is effective because it breaks the habit of dwelling on worries when you've got other things to do. Yet there's no struggle to try to suppress the thoughts or to judge it. You simply save it for later. And as you develop this ability to postpone your anxious thoughts, you're going to start to realize, I've got more control over this than I thought. Now, if worrying is a problem dealing time, then what we probably need most is wisdom to solve the problem. And wisdom, according to one definition, is defined as the ability to think and act using knowledge, experience, understanding, common sense, and insight. Wisdom has been regarded as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, and as a virtue, it's a habit to perform the action with the highest degree of adequacy under any given circumstances and to avoid wrongdoing. So it's like this. You can have gained knowledge about a subject. You may know the subject of guitars backwards and forwards, how they're made, how they're fixed, how they're played, how they do anything. You can have all that knowledge. That doesn't mean that you can play the guitar. Fortunately, Ben can play the guitar and knows the inside outs of it. On the other hand, you can have experience, lots of experiences, but not know how to use those experiences, right? You may have heard it said that a person can have 10 years of experience or 10 one-year experiences because they never learn from their experiences. So wisdom is the combination of taking the knowledge we've gained with the experience we've had combined with common sense to find a solution that we're worried about. Now, we go to 1 Kings. And the story is that before King David died, he passed his whole kingdom on to his son, the one that he had with Bathsheba, Solomon. But before Solomon came to power, he had a dream of talking to God. And his dream is recorded in 1 Kings 3, and we begin at verse 5. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream. And God said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Wow, it's kind of like a genie in a bottle offer. If you could be granted just one request, what would that be? I can guarantee you that if God gave me that opportunity, I would spend days and days worrying about it. It would spin around in my head. Okay, so should I ask for wealth so I would never have to concern myself with money again? Or should I ask for health so I could get rid of my health insurance? Not bad choices, right? Here is what Solomon asked for. Verse 6. Solomon answered, you have shown, he's talking to God now in this dream, you have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. You have continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne this very day. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? So what Solomon asked for in verse 9 defines wisdom. So give your servant a discerning heart, he says, and to distinguish between right and wrong. And here's God's response, verse 10. The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies, oh, that's a popular request, I'm sure, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. Wow. And then verse 13, moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. And if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and commands, as David your father did, I will give you a long life. Then Solomon awoke, and he realized it had been a dream. Wow, what a dream. Incredible. I'll give you a long life. Now, what that tells us is what God's priorities are for us. If we have wisdom, we're going to know what to do with our nuclear bombs, right? We're going to know what to do with our drug inventions. We're going to know what to do with our pleasures and whatever else that we come up with. When we seek God with all our heart, we'll know right from wrong and have an opportunity to choose the right way. And that's what wisdom is. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, Solomon's writing said. And so God gave Solomon this wisdom beyond comparison. And consequently, his wealth was so grand that there was no one that could ever be close to his wealth. Unfortunately, Solomon did not always stay faithful to the Lord. And unfortunately, he took some 700 wives from religions that didn't honor God. What was he thinking? And his latter days were not as glorious as his earlier days when he was faithful to the Lord. But God kept his part of the bargain. Fortunately for us, when Solomon was having good days, he wrote down what it was that God was giving him, the wisdom. And we have that in this book of Proverbs in the Bible. So our Bible memory verses for this week, if you're keeping up with that and want to sharpen your brain and fight off dementia and all that kind of stuff that Bible memory does, is Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. Let's read it together. It's on the screen. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Is that easy? Say it again. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Wow. I hope that you'll take those to heart and memorize them. Lean not on your own understanding. Your own understanding includes those experiences that you've had up to this time. It's what you've read, it's what you've seen, it's what you've experienced. There's nobody here who has a complete encyclopedia of knowledge. Every one of us is limited. We only get a portion of that which is going around us. And we can use those experiences in problem solving, but that's not what we lean into. In all your ways, not just in church-related ways, but all our ways, submit to him. In other words, not my will, but yours be done, God. And so our elders meet on Tuesday night. This month is a little bit different, as you saw in the bulletin. Normally we have a gathering of the servants and we pull all the committees together. But this Tuesday night, our elders are meeting together because they're in the final stages of formulating our plan and our mission and our purpose. And so I say to our elders who are here, we are not going to lean into our own understanding, our own experiences. We'll use those, but we're going to try to lean into to the Lord, to trust in Him. And in all our ways, submit to Him. And where that becomes hard is we get something in our head that we really, really want. And for us to then all of a sudden step back and say, no, we're not going to do that, we're not going to have that, it's hard. It's really, really challenging. But if we apply this verse of trusting the Lord with all our heart, not leaning on what we've done in the past, and submit our plans to Him, I am quite certain that He will make our paths straight. And so this morning we go to the table of our Lord. This is the path that He has made for us. And the path is pretty much straight for all of us.